on the set in 3, 2, 1, going live.
All right, Don, we got a hell of a guest. This is going to be a great show. I'm Mel Craig.
And I'm Don Ramsey.
And welcome to another episode of HB Unplugged. Yeah, man. So, Don, this is going to be exciting. Yeah. This is everyone out there watching this specific episode. This is some history. This is going down as history. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, so I asked my friend Steve Wheat, born and raised here in Huntington Beach, and I know he has a lot of great history, and so he agreed, and he's here today to kind of share some of the history of Huntington Beach, things that people probably don't know. But Steve, go ahead.
Well, hang on a second. One thing I do want to add to that is we've already had a couple of people here that have really made an impact, and I think Don, I call him the unofficial mayor, like everyone else does. He's like the historian. But even Don and I are sitting there going, "Wow, I didn't know that," with some of our guests. So that's what we're excited to hear from you.
You just made me remember something.
Well, go for it.
I just learned myself recently, and I'll throw it in. At some point.
Go ahead.
You could remind me of that something, whatever it is, and
hold that
hopefully
thought.
I'll be able to grab it.
Well, right off the bat, Steve. I mean, we already know you grew up here, and you're already telling us stories early about the 50s and 60s here in Huntington Beach. First off, let's start with your family, your immediate family, wife, kids. I mean, whatever you got there, and let's go.
I don't have any wives or kids now. I had a son, and I lost him about almost now going on 6 years ago.
Oh, bummer.
But that's never
Casey.
Casey. That's never good.
Yeah,
and it's one of the big things in life that everybody wishes doesn't happen. But
you never want to outlive your kids. That's for sure.
Yeah. But for me, anyway, for Huntington Beach starting out, I lived right on the corner. You know where they got on 5th Street, where the police annex place is there. The cops use that big old building.
Yeah,
right across the street from there, there's a little one-story like cottages.
Yeah, there's like 3 of them.
That's where I lived when I was born because my folks were living there.
Wow, it's
my,
been
my
there
mom
that
and
long.
mom.
And what year was that?
That was 47.
Wow. 1947.
Yeah, they had to drive to Santa Ana there was no Hoag Hospital.
I can't believe those have been there that long.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, like that
there wasn't much around then.
No, there was lots of fields everywhere. I mean, between houses and places.
Huntington Beach was agriculture, to say the least.
Were all the oil rigs still there at that time?
Oh yeah. There was still a lot of oil rigs, but the oil boom was petering out, and so things were economically and things were changing, pretty quick. But so anyway, we lived there, and we were there for about 3 years, and then my dad had well, I might as well tell something. My dad was from Missouri, and when he was born, his mom and dad, they split up right when he was just like a year old.
Right.
They had problems and stuff, so they split up, and then so he lived a few miles away at his grandparents' house, and with them and aunts and uncles and all that. And then his mom, after a while, she came out to California. She wanted to get situated out here because Missouri was a lousy place to try to work and get a job. It was just farming, So anyway, she came out here and
what were the time frame here? What years?
Well, that would have been probably about in the early 20s.
Well, okay. Go
ahead. Early 20s. She came out. So my dad stayed on the farm with Grandpa and a few of my grandmother's brothers and sisters. And one of the brothers, one of his uncles, he kind of filled in to be the dad. He and my dad got on real good, and then later on, a few years later after that, I know my Uncle Homer said to my dad one day, he said, said to my dad, but his dad only lived a few miles away on another farm. And and everybody knew that my dad had never met him. He never had come over,
Wow.
And so Homer said to him one day, he goes, you want to meet your dad? And my dad said, yeah, I'd like to meet my dad,
Oh,
so Homer put him in the wagon and took off. It was a few miles, and then when they got to where they could see the farm, he told my dad, he goes, "See that farm down there?" He says, "That's where your dad lives." And my dad didn't say anything. He was just sitting there, And then Homer said to my dad, he goes, "You still want to see your dad?" And my dad said, "No." And Homer said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "He never came to see me." He said, "Okay, we'll take you home then." And that's as close as my dad got.
To meet.
Wow. Yeah. And needless to say, that had a big effect on him the rest of his life.
Wow.
But so then when he was about 11, my grandmother sent for him. She was established and saved a little money. She's working in restaurants and stuff. And sent for him, and he came out.
Here in Huntington Beach?
Yeah, She was in Santa Ana for a few years, and then she had moved to Huntington Beach. And then that's where the guy that built the Golden Bear, that's where he came into my grandmother's life, because that was Harry Bacher was his name, and so he was my grandpa. I didn't even know that he wasn't blood related, and that didn't matter. But he was from Greece, and he was a bit older than her at that time. But he left Greece as a kid, like I think he was 8 or 9 or something. He wanted to leave Greece because he had a nickname that he didn't like, and everybody kept calling him that nickname. And he was pretty smart, and he was obviously pretty gutsy. He went down to the harbor and looked on the ship manifest thing where they put up ships from where they're going. He read a ship that was going to San Francisco. He knew he had an aunt. His mom's sister lived in San Francisco because he had the letters with her address. He stowed away on the boat. He got on the boat just before they leave and they make everybody get off. Well, he got inside one of the lifeboats and he left with the boat. And they didn't find him for a couple days, or he didn't come out or whatever. And then they got a hold, they teletyped or something, and they got a hold of his mom. We got the kid, he's not missing, and all that. And so she said, well, if her sister can handle him and he wants to be there, then that's okay. We'll let him. And that's what he did. Wow. He ended up growing up in San Francisco as a stowaway from Greece.
Wow.
And that was just the start of his thing. And he went downtown where the big buildings, and there was a gap between the buildings. I don't know why, maybe earthquakes or whatever, but he went and he built a little table that he could put in and take out, and he started selling hot dogs over that little counter to the people in the big buildings, the attorneys and the professionals and stuff. They'd stop and get a hot dog from him. And by the time, that's when he was a kid. By the time he was in his mid-20s, he had one of the best restaurants in San Francisco, downtown.
Wow. He worked his way from a hot dog stand to a restaurateur.
Now, what was that the Golden Lion?
No, that's just, I think there was one in San Diego, the Golden something or something like that, yeah. But I don't know exactly how that goes. Okay. But anyway, he got married and everything was great, and his wife died, and it broke his heart. And he just sold the business and started traveling down the coast to start a new life somewhere else, And when he got to Huntington Beach and he rented a room and he looked around and he was going in this cafe every morning, and that's where my grandmother was working.
On Main Street.
What year?
Yeah, that would have been the early 20s.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he was going in there, and he fell for my grandmother, and they ended up getting married. And then pretty soon she sent for my dad, Cecil, for him to come out. And he came out and met Harry, and he had a whole new life back with his mom. He had a stepdad and all that. And he was living in Huntington Beach, and Harry built the Golden Bear. It was a big building with a real high ceiling inside. I remember it from when I was a kid.
Yeah, we know it.
And and he built that thing, and he just had a booming business. Everybody in town loved Harry, so everybody liked to come in just to be around him. And so that went on, and then he taught my dad how to work, and then he taught my dad how to tend bar before he was legally, it should be 10 and bar, but that didn't matter back then. Harry knew all the cops, so who was going to say anything,
Wow.
But
So this is actually before prohibition.
a little bit, yeah.
Just a few,
Because
that's
how
right.
long did prohibition last?
It was quite a few years.
Some years.
Yeah, it was quite a few years.
Well,
Yeah.
I can date it one ways. I know so then my dad was living his life and everything. Then when he was in his early 20s, he had the itch to get the hell out, you know what I mean, to get away and go experience something new. And he went to Alaska. And he had a little note from one of the old timers in town. He said, when you go to Alaska, he said, in Ketchikan, there's a druggist in Ketchikan, and here's a note from me introducing you. That's at least something, And so when my dad got to Ketchikan, he went and talked to that guy, and that guy hired him right away to work the soda fountain. And that wasn't the kind of work that my dad was looking for, but he had to start somewhere.
Yeah, he had to start
can't
something.
be picky. Yeah, and so, but he didn't work there very long, and that's when they stopped prohibition. And he was a bartender, full blast bartender, and then in a couple of years he owned 2 bars in town and was killing it.
Wow.
And he started making trips back.
We got to hang around Steve more often because he has all this success blood inside of him.
Well, I got passed over in that category, but anyway.
They say stuff like that skips a generation.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still living off of the stuff I'm talking about, that these people made.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my dad started making trips back. He stayed up there for years, and then he was making trips, coming back down, and then he met my mom on a trip down here, and he was down for a few years. He met her and married her, and that's how I came into the picture and stuff. But
and that's when they were living on 5th and Walnut.
When we came back, 5th and Walnut when he married my mom.
Yeah.
But then he was there for another 3 years, because when I was 3 years old, he took us back up to Alaska. He still owned the bars. He had a partner, a very good friend that had been running them, And so he went back up because he ran out of money. When he came down from Alaska, he was worth $150,000, and you could buy a new home for $6,000.
Oh, yeah.
Homes around the high school. He could have invested 1/3 of his money and never worked again. Instead, he just plowed through all of it. So, but he thought he's going to go back up to Alaska and make another bundle of money. The logging boom was over. The fishing boom was over because of World War II and that stuff. And the bar business was shot. There wasn't much money to be made. So we stayed up there for 3 years, and then he came back, and we were here ever since.
That makes me think about Zack's too. How did your dad open that business? You know where Zack's is now at Beach
So you
Boulevard?
got Zack's at the pier, but Zack's too is down south.
That name comes from my dad.
Yeah, his dad is the guy.
Where does Zack come from? Where does the word Zack come from?
That comes from my. This is back to the Wheats that my dad never met. That was his great uncle was Zack Wheat in the 20s. He played for the Dodgers. He still holds a whole bunch of records for the Dodgers, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
He was
Zack
good.
Wheat.
Zack Wheat.
Zack
yeah.
Wheat.
Wow.
And
See, we learned something again.
I didn't know how that's how Zack.
And I just learned recently. I had heard.
I always ask Ali. I keep meaning to say, how did you come up with that name?
Oh, he bought that beach concession, and
Right.
it was called Zack's 2, as in Zack's also.
Yeah.
Because this first one was up this way. I ran that for quite a few years, but so that's why he kept the name
So
Zack's.
Zack's been around that long.
And, that was only built in the early '60s
Yeah, that's
when
still,
Zack's.
yeah.
But that is a long time, isn't it?
That is a long time, dude. You're forgetting.
Yeah, I was like this big, but
60 years ago is the.
Yeah.
I mean, I moved here in '63, which was 63 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. But so yeah, where exactly were we at? We came back from we spent 3 years up there. We came back here, and then I was 6 then, and that's when that picture was taken that I told you about. taken from a derrick, and it shows the block that we lived on. And our house was only a few years old, and it was right on the end of the block, and it's like the only habitable place you see except for the big old abandoned motel across the street because there weren't the oil men to rent rooms in the motel. But and so then the one thing that was kind of an odd thing I never could figure out. So I just came back from Alaska, and when I first got to Alaska, when I was only like 3 or 4, my first friend I made in my life that I could remember was this Indian kid, because when we first got there, we lived in this apartment that was like right by this river and a waterfall, and so I'd met the kid down there messing around with the river, like kids do, and when the salmon would run, he and I would grab salmon by the tail and throw them up on the rocks, because it's fun. We get a lot of salmon, and they get pushed into the shallows, and we do that. But then about 100 yards away, there was this like wood shacks up on stilts right out to the edge of the river. That's where the Indians lived there. It was really old and nothing like the apartment thing that I'm living in. But anyway, when I got back here and they put me in kindergarten, my mom came in one day to pick me up, and the teacher came out and said, "Well, where did Steve learn how to dance?" And my mom said, "What do you dance? No, he don't." What do you mean? And the teacher said, "Well, when it comes time to share, he gets up and does an Indian dance." And my mom goes, "I don't know anything about it." And then they asked me, and I couldn't remember where I learned it or anything. But I was hanging out with that kid, and he used to come to my house, and I know I probably went over to where the Indians live, but don't remember it. And that's where I would have saw Indian dancing and music and all
what a
singing that they do and stuff. Yeah, so
subconsciously you picked it up.
I picked it up, and the teacher said, "Oh, he gets up and dances all around the room, and then he just goes and sits down."
Okay, so you shouldn't have told me that, because I'm going to have you do that one of these days and put you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember how to do it. So
I forgot. I'm an old guy.
Too bad.
Old guys forget.
Yeah.
Hey, so that school you went to, was that Dwyer?
Yeah.
Wow.
The kindergarten part, the one-story part over there.
Yeah.
That was it.
Right there off of, what is that, 14th Street?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I just going on from there and got into grammar school. Then in grammar school in like 6th grade, myself and friends that we started going to the beach, and we were all day at the beach every day. We were body surfing and belly boarding. And we were watching the surfers.
No, he already told me this, but go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're watching them all the time, and that's what we want. We want to be a surfer one day. We shit can these belly boards, And but then we figured out, well, when the waves get big, these guys lose their boards, and it takes them forever. They drift down the beach, and then they got to run back. And we were sitting there looking at these boards laying in the wet sand, And then one day, I forget exactly when it started, but we started grabbing those boards, flip them over, carry them down, push them out in the whitewater, and then turn them around and ride the whitewater in. And just grind the board right into the sand, which wasn't too good for the exterior of the board.
Yeah, but those things back then were bulletproof.
Yeah.
You fall off a car and you can still go
serious
surf.
was going to happen to them. But that's what we were doing.
They were like quadruple glass
two 10 ounces.
Yeah.
So
totally unnecessary.
Had Gordy already started his shop underneath the pier?
So Gordy was under the pier.
He wasn't under the pier. He
was on the side.
He was just north of the pier.
Right.
Yeah.
There was Gordy had 3 garages. There was a row of garages, maybe 6, right by what they call it Zack's now, the beach
Zack's
concession
North.
that's there, And out of those 6 garages, Gordy had 3. In the middle was where you could come in and order a board if he was in a good mood.
Yeah. Gordy.
Otherwise, you could come in to order a board, and if you didn't look like somebody with serious bucks, he'd just run you off before you ever got a chance to order a board.
Oh, bummer.
He was in a bad mood.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm only exaggerating a little bit.
Yeah.
But with us,
So I
as
knew
kids,
Gordy.
he was very
Gordy
much
was
like
a friend
that.
of mine. Yeah.
Do you remember that stuff like that?
Oh
with
yeah.
him?
So real quick. Gordy's in 1991. He's at my house, and we're watching the Super Bowl. And he comes outside, and he wants to smoke a cigarette. And he goes, Ramsey, come on outside, and I'll tell you some stories. And he tells me about the day that he invites John Severson to come to his shop.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to go across the street to the Capri Bar and have some beers. So John Severson, the founder of Surfer Magazine, gets there a little early, and Gordy tells him, "Well, go wait outside because I've got to finish this board." And so he finishes, and Gordy and Severson walk across the street and go to the Capri Bar, which later Mike L.E. buys. But
yeah.
This is 1961, I think, and so they're across the street having beers on right there on PCH, and a kid runs in the bar and says, "Hey, Gordy, the shop's on fire."
Yeah.
And Gordy looks across the street and he sees these flames coming up in the air, and he goes. Him and Severson go out of the bar and they go down there, and the shop is burnt to a crisp, and for 10 years. Gordy thought for sure that the city had paid arsonists to burn the surf shop down because
To run him off.
Well, yeah, because
Maybe insurance.
Well, surfing was considered a dark sport back then.
Oh, yeah.
Gordy told me
Parents
because
weren't happy.
Oh,
Yeah.
politicians, everything. Hey,
the city didn't like
low-life
surfing.
bums.
Well, it brought in bums and drug addicts.
Yeah.
That was their opinion of surfing back then in Surf City, USA. Anyway, so in '71, Gordy's in Maui at John Severson's house, and Severson tells Gordy, "Hey, you remember the day the surf shop burnt down?" And Gordy says, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, when you told me to wait outside, I smoked a cigarette and I flicked the cigarette butt on the ground, and that's what's." He thinks that's
Inside
what
the
started
shop.
the fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gordy looks at me, you know, Gordy, how he held a cigarette, closed his eyes when he talked to you. And he goes, "Ramsey, what are the odds that the first surf shop in Huntington Beach gets burnt down by the founder of Surfer Magazine?"
That's surfers.
True story. I mean, I was blown away by that story that he told
Yeah,
me.
I never heard that story till you told me. I mean, it's not like it got around town.
No,
Severson
some
wasn't.
people- you know who knows
talking.
the story? Chuck
Right.
Ray. Chuck Ray knew the story very well. Oh, yeah.
Probably took a while for that got out. because
Yeah. It's
you
just
didn't
one
want
of
people
those.
to know that.
It's probably something not everybody's want to, I'm sure.
Yeah, Gordy was a trip, man. Gordy was a trip.
He was. You could go in there one day. Sometimes when we'd show up there, he'd go, what are you rats doing around? And he'd say, come on in here. And he'd take us in because in one room he shaped boards, the other room he glassed them. And at that time he was doing abstracts where he would just pour a color down one half of the board and then hit it with a brush, same on the other side. So he'd invite us to come in and he'd show us what he was doing and all this stuff, and he'd be talking and laughing and everything. And then the next day, the minute you even started to walk in, he'd run you off. Get the hell out of here. Goddamn Grammys,
He was
get out
like
of
that
here.
when his shop was on 13th Street, because I remember as a kid he was kind of a prick.
Bipolar.
He could be.
Bipolar.
And he had that big guy, Andy, that worked there too.
Yeah.
Friend of mine, the same age, when we were like around 10, he walked up to the shop, to see what's going on. And Andy had a hot batch in his hand that he'd just done some work on a board. He looked over and saw Paul standing there, and he went like that and threw a hot batch on this kid's chest of freshly mixed up resin, catalyst, the whole thing.
Wow.
And he had to go running home. His dad had to get go get acetone and try to take it. He would have done 6 months in jail today.
Oh,
then
probably longer
nothing
than that.
happens except Paul's dad went down there and chewed him out.
Wow.
Yeah, he was part of the hole in the wall game.
Yeah.
You said something about all these surfers that were losing their boards. It made me think, when did the first surf leash get made? I remember it was a piece of leather around my ankle, and it was a bungee cord.
Yeah,
And it always
it
used
was
to break.
a surgical cord that they.
That was around 70, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Around
was,
there.
because when I went in the Army in '71, no one would had leashes. And then when I got back in '74, everybody had a leash, and it was wearing wetsuits. And
So it was like 73, 74. I'm trying to remember when I bought my first leash. Like, this is cool.
Yeah, and you know what you just said about the leashes when you got back? Yeah. Also, when you got back, there was virtually almost no one walking across that beach with a longboard.
Oh yeah,
The shortboard things.
Shortboards.
the
Had
shortboard era had taken off. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of it was how
Wayne Lynch.
how surfers are into being cool, or being the latest thing and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Because
I remember.
guys could have kept riding the longboards. It was a different way. It's a fun way of surfing. It's just way different from the short.
I actually have some guests here, and they're actually watching the
took
show
over.
today, and we went downtown Tuesday night, Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I walked them into a surf shop because they're from Delaware, and they were like, "Oh, we've never seen this," and I was showing them the difference between the short boards and the long boards, and the type of board I ride today is an egg.
Yeah.
I love an egg. It's the cross between the two, and mine 8'6" nose rider egg board that I love, and I was showing them what I ride, and showing them how big the big boards are, and it's interesting, especially for people who don't understand. It's like, who rides this? Some of the boards it was at HSS.
Yeah.
And the first couple of boards, they're almost the size of a skateboard. Like, it's like, who rides this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. The surf culture in Huntington Beach is, it is a trip. It's unique in its own way, only because we have so many surfing heroes that came out of Huntington Beach. It's unbelievable how many great surfers we have.
Well, look, we have the Hall of Fame, the Walk of Fame, actually 2 Walls of Fame.
Yeah.
We have the one over
No,
in
the
Pacific.
Surfers Hall of Fame.
The other one's walk.
That's at HSS, and then the
Walk of Fame.
Surfing Walk of Fame
On the sidewalk.
Yeah,
And then
I'm on both boards.
Yeah, I know. And then he's on every board, every chair. We know that.
Just saying.
Yeah, I know you are. He's on every chair.
All right, cool.
We got to go.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us for another episode of HB Unplugged. I'm Bill Craig.
And I'm Don Ramsey.
See ya.